Good evening and welcome to the October 26th, 2022 regular meeting of the Palm Springs Planning Commission. Can I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Alain?
Here.
Commissioner Irvin? Commissioner Irvin, you're here. Commissioner Hirschbein is excused. Commissioner Miller has not arrived. Commissioner Maruzzi?
Here.
Vice Chair Roberts is excused and Chair Womack.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Can I have a report on the acceptance of the agenda, please, or a report on the posting of the agenda?
Madam Chair and Planning Commission, good evening. Our agenda was posted on Thursday, October 20th, and has been posted in accordance with state law and city policy.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the agenda, please?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That passed. Okay, we at this point, we're in public comments. This time has been set aside for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on consent calendar and other agenda items and items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission. Please note that the Planning Commission can't take action on an item that isn't listed on the agenda. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. Testimony for we don't have any public hearings tonight. So if anybody is here to testify on an item, this is the time you should testify. Oh, I'm sorry, we do have public hearings. So we can take testimony now or during the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to testify? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. We don't have a consent calendar tonight. The first public hearing is item 2A, William Eden, owner for a conditional use permit to allow a multifamily residential use in zone C1, a tentative track map, a major development permit, and a request for an administrative minor modification for the development named Eden Place Estates located at West Via Olivera Drive. And it's in a split zone C1 and R2. Is there a staff report, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are you able to see the slides?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for reading into the record the proposed project. Let me just get it going here. So in order to orient the commission and the audience, the project is located on West Via Olivera, which is almost at the corner of North Palm Canyon Drive and West Via Olivera. The slide, the aerial that's before you with the red square shows the size, the lot where it's proposed. The lot currently is 14,000 some square feet in size, and the proposal is to have a conditional use permit to allow multifamily in the C1 zone, a tentative track map for 3 condo units, a major development permit for the construction of the 3 units, an administrative minor modification for setback reductions of the front yard due to street dedication and side yards, and we'll explain that in a little bit further detail. And then the ARC will review the major architectural application, which includes the design of the buildings, the landscape, and so forth. So the reason why we have a conditional use permit is that the zoning is split diagonally through the lot, and the C1 zone requires that a CUP for multifamily residential. And this exhibit shows how the lot is split, and this affects both the setbacks and the building heights in C1 and R2 zones. This is a illustrative drawing of the proposed project, and you'll notice that on the C1 portion of the lot, there's a 2-story element to it, and then the R2 zone west on the east side is the 1-story proposal. So that is one of the reasons why we have this design that is very unique. This is another shot showing how the front of the property would relate to the street. They're proposing bay parking with the use of 2 carports over 6 of the parking spaces, leaving 1 uncovered. They're also proposing EV chargers, which you can see here are the orange pedestals that will provide 4 spaces for charging vehicles. The Planning Commission reviewed a 130 unit hotel project adjacent to the property several months ago, back in July. And the staff asked the applicant to provide a cross-section showing how this development would relate to the development that's proposed next door. The Planning Commission saw this as a study session. There was no decision made, but however, you did give comments to the proposed developer. So that's what this exhibit shows. The proposed 3 units is in the red box, and it shows the parking areas for the adjacent development and then where the proposed buildings could possibly be built. So in looking at a further exhibit, this shows a cross-section of the street where my cursor is, the proposed building, the rear yards of the units, and then the distance between the rear wall and the building. And that would include parking for the units and then a 26-foot drive aisle and then the building. Bottom cross-section, it shows looking north, and the apartment building that's proposed or hotel would be 17 feet away from the proposed line and the lower 1-story building in the R2 zone. So staff feels that there's adequate spacing between the proposed development and the hotel that may come in the future. So looking at the tentative track map, this is for condominium purposes, which would divide the lot into 3 units. The unit counts are for unit 1, 2, and 3, and you'll see in the table, which was in your staff report, the proposed sizes. So they're fairly large units with two stories for units 2 and units 3, one of 2,000 square feet and one of 1,900 square feet. The density that's allowed in the R2 zone is 3.5 units, and they're proposing 3. So they meet the general plan density requirements, and they're actually under the density. So looking at the required minor modifications for the setbacks, they're asking for a front yard setback of 15 feet to allow for the construction of the covered parking for the condo units. And they're also asking for a side yard setback on the east side to allow 8-foot side yard instead of the 10-foot side yard. Now, to talk about the street dedication a little bit more, this is an aerial photograph, and currently the property line extends out into the middle of the street, West Via Olivera. They're required to dedicate 25 feet, which would relocate the new property line in line with this development that is to the east. There's currently curb, sidewalk, driveway aprons to the developments to the east. And this would continue in this section where this development is. And then when the adjacent development comes in, the road would be widened to meet and continue across the street. And in this exhibit, it shows the property line via Olivera, 25-foot street dedication to where the new property line would be, and then the carports, which would be set back over top of the bay parking, and then the building itself would be set back from there. So the AMM would allow them to construct the carports within the 15-foot reduced setback, and that is the post here. And the below exhibit shows how that would relate to the bay parking and the building itself. Just to show this a little bit closer, let me get, here you'll see that there's an 8-foot setback, and this allows for the placement of the condenser units so that they're not on the roof. Look at the C2 zone, it also is 8-foot setback. But basically, this could be reduced to 5 feet if they built it to the C2 standards, but they want to have it symmetrical so that it's consistent on both sides. So there also is a major development permit that is required based upon a multifamily residential project. The ARC will review the building design, the landscape plan and materials at a future date. And the Planning Commission may want to give direction to the ARC in those types of discussion items. And looking at the building materials, they're using Angelus oak. And the applicant will be able to describe this better than I will, but you'll see there's a different variety of materials, overhangs, windows, balconies, and terraces that makes the development interesting. I would like to point out that there is 2 water features at the entrance, and then there's a perforated gate to provide security into the units itself. And in your packet, there's extensive exhibits showing the elevations on all sides. I didn't include all of them here. I just wanted to show several of them and point out that the maximum height on the west side is 22 feet. And then the maximum height on the R2 side is 11 feet. Once again, there's a carport design that's simple, a steel post, steel cantilevered roof lid, and then, as I mentioned, the EV chargers. And the applicant will probably describe this better than I can. And once again, more illustrative drawings that are in your packets. They also are providing a design of the trash enclosure, which will be the same as the gate. And you'll see it here. I'm circling it now. The trash enclosure is a perforated metal, and it is similar to the entry gate. There also is possible signage. This has not been decided at this time, but it's here for the Planning Commission to see where a general location of a sort of identification sign would be. This is once again illustrative drawing showing the trash enclosure at the street front and then the parking. There's a landscape plan that shows not too many plants because there's a lot of hardscape involved in the project, roof, parking, and then side walkways. But each of the units would have access to an outdoor area with a school and patio on the rear of the property. So there are required findings that the Planning Commission needs to make. Staff feels that these findings have all been made for the CUP, the track map, the major development permit, and then the AMM to reduce the setback side. I've included some floor plans. If the Planning Commission would like to discuss them, I have them available. But that concludes my report, Chair. The hearing was noticed and staff did not receive any comments from adjacent or abutting property owners. So that concludes my report and the applicant is available.
Thank you. Are there questions for staff? Commissioner Maruzzi and then Commissioner Miller.
I just have a question regarding the conditional use permit and the commercial zone. Hasn't the state recently enacted a law that commercial properties can now be used for residential without much of? Is a conditional use permit still required with the new state law?
Well, you know, I was at the California Planning Association conference just last month, and it did come up, and it's something that maybe our attorney can address. But yes, there has been some discussion of that.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. You know, I have to confess, I can't tell you all the ins and outs of that legislation. Our understanding is that a CUP would be required for this application because it is in the C1 zone that the state law does not preempt in this case. I can provide more information to the Planning Commission at a later date if you'd like on that legislation.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just curious, just for the future, because I think the state is trying to encourage commercial properties from now to be used for residential. Whatever they can make it easier would be good for all of us.
And if I might add, Madam Chair, to Commissioner Maruzzi, as we look at that and coordinate with the city attorney, you know, we will be undertaking an amendment to the zoning code and update once we get through the general plan. And so any changes that might be necessary to reflect state law, we would make sure are incorporated into that.
Commissioner Miller?
Yeah, just a couple brief questions for Glenn. The back out parking that we see here, is that allowed by right in this zone? Because I know we dealt with that at single family level with some recent legislation. I'm not sure that that's allowed.
Right, bay parking is commonly used in multifamily situations like this because the unit count is higher than single family, and they need to provide guest parking also.
Okay, then thanks. My other question is regarding the trash enclosure. The gates for the trash enclosure are designed such that they open over the public sidewalk. And I don't know how many examples I've seen across the city where on garbage day, whether it's 1 day a week or 2 days a week, those gates are left open. And in this case, those gates would restrict the public using that sidewalk. So I'm wondering if there's something we can do with an alternative design to those gates that might not hamper travel on the public sidewalk that's going to be built.
That's a good point. I mean, it is a management issue that they would need to police that and make sure that someone pulls the trash bins in and then pulls them out and closes the gate, and the applicant can address.
Commissioner Land? You have your hand up.
Yes, I have a question that is inspired by this project and this particular recommendation. Not that it's broader than that. And that is, I saw one other time when we had a case like this where the parcel, a single parcel was bifurcated. So that part was in one zone and part was in another zone. And other than that, these two instances, I haven't really seen that before. So my question is, should we expect to see a lot of these? It's kind of an inelegant zoning lines go through the middle of parcels. And I don't know how staff has worked this out. The last time I think there was some really higher order mathematical permutations required to come up with the density. Do you have this a lot? Are we going to be seeing a lot of these? And when the zoning ordinance is updated or the zoning map is updated, we could reduce the number of parcels where zones change in the middle of a parcel.
Well, it's a common occurrence along Palm Canyon that there is the first 200 feet back from the street right of way is zoned C1, and the back portions are zoned multifamily. So one example would be the Tova project next to Rick's Restaurant. That had a split zoning also, where the front portion is C1 and the back was R2. So yes, you'll see projects come to the Planning Commission that have split zoning. It just depends on how the property lines are drawn. I don't know if we've talked about cleaning that up in a redo of the map, but it hasn't been contemplated yet.
Well, and if I might add, Commissioner Land, the challenge is sort of exactly what Glenn described, that typically the boundaries will follow sort of a uniform setback. So in this case, 200 feet from Palm Canyon. Property lines don't necessarily follow that same logic. So I think it is something we could certainly continue through, consider and look into as we update the zoning code, but it may be challenging to sort of address it in all situations. But I think, this is something that you may see going forward.
Yes, parcels can and do change over time, but not so nearly into them, run into it a lot. My other question is, how is there a standard protocol that staff goes through when you have a lot like this in order to determine where to apply, what standards to apply, and whether it's done on a percentage basis or it's strictly where the line falls or
Right. Well, this is a good example where we're able to use C1 development standards on the west portion and then R2 on the east portion. So I can't speak for the applicant, but he probably would have liked to have had 2 stories on the R2 portion, but we had to apply the development standards based upon what the zoning says. And going through a rezoning may not have been the right way to spot zone this property, but the app feels that the project is well developed.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious.
Other questions? I have some on the parking. My understanding is that 6 of the parking spaces are covered and 1 isn't. And the logic that the uncovered, what is the logic for the uncovered space?
The applicant can describe that. When the project first came in, it was apartments and there was no covered parking required. And then we moved it to condos, which requires parking. So I think the applicant will have some time to respond, right? Chairwoman,
And
Madam Chair, yeah.
in terms of the depth of the parking spaces, it's not 15 feet. What is it for the parking space itself?
Parking space is 18 feet. Setback is for the post is at 15. So there's, as the car pulls in, there's a 2-foot overhang. So the car space is 18 feet long, but the post of the carport is at 15.
Post meaning what?
Where the structure setback, the post, and I can go to the slides
If you would, I don't understand the term.
right. Sorry, I'm not explaining it very well. All right. Swap. On. All right. See the slides?
Yes.
Here we go. Let me swap. There we go. So in this example, the new property line is the dark line. Parking space is 18 feet, but the post is at 15 feet. So you can see that the bumper of the car extends farther underneath the carport. It's the structure where the post is defined as a structure, and that is at 15 feet. So you can see that the car, it still extends underneath the carport. So there's a overhang in the rear and overhang in the front.
So I guess the question is, could the car go all the way up to the building line? Is that where the 18 feet are?
Site plan here. So there is a wall, there's an overhang here that the bumper would overhang, and then there's a wall with a planter.
Okay.
As you can see it here.
Right. And is the bumper necessary? I mean, what if there may be cars that are longer than 15 feet?
This space is 18 feet from the curb to where the bumper is, where the car could overhang.
Okay, got it. Then my second question is, you've got the handicap spot in the area where the residents are, but you may not have a handicapped person assigned to that. Shouldn't the handicap spot be on the other side where there isn't an assigned spot for one of the residences?
Right. Unfortunately, the ADA code says that there has to be a clear path of travel. In the applicant, we discussed this at length of where this handicap space would be, and they can describe ours is to be here. It couldn't
assign that space to a resident.
Would you assign it? You're asking?
Yeah, I mean, can you assign it to a resident if they're not handicapped?
I don't think that would be the intent. A guest could arrive and be handicapped.
Right, but you've got another space on the other side that's not covered.
This one is not covered.
So are you assuming that all of the spaces except the handicap space are assigned to residents, or how are you doing?
The 3 of them would be assigned because that's the only required. And that's a management question. They'll have to answer that. I don't know how the assignment of the parking spaces would go. There's no city requirement that they be assigned.
And this would be a condo association So there would be CCNRs, but it's too small for a management company, correct?
There would be CCNRs, correct?
Okay. I think that we can go. Are there any other questions of staff? Is the applicant here? And I would open the oh, Commissioner Land.
I'm sorry, I forgot a question earlier. Can you tell me if these units would go to meet any of our unmet numbers for arena? And if so, what category they would be in, or are they in a category where we've already met our goals?
Staff had discussions with the applicant about entering into our multifamily fee waiver program for affordable and low income housing, and they've chosen not to go that route.
I believe
That doesn't quite answer my question. Will these be in a category where we still have numbers we have to produce? Or if this is in moderate or above moderate, have we already met those numbers? And are these needed?
That I'm any multifamily residential helps standards. These are market rate. They're not moderate.
And I'm gathering you're not certain whether or not we've met our market rate numbers.
I cannot tell you at this
I
point.
would interject in that when we went through the housing element, we had more than enough units still available to be built in some of the unbuilt areas like Asina and Maryland, Serena Park and others, where we had more than enough units for the moderate and high-end housing.
Okay.
And the only areas where we didn't, I mean, we had already dedicated areas to those.
Okay, thank you.
And I think Chris might be able to
Yeah,
explain.
thank you, Madam Chair. I was struggling to unmute, but that's exactly correct. So we have enough through the permitting process and in the works to cover the numbers.
On everything but low income, right?
Yes, sorry, on the moderate and high, yes.
Okay, with no other questions, the public hearing is open. Is the applicant here?
Yes, my name is Saida Braun, and I am the project manager and assistant designer for the project. I can answer your parking questions. If you see on the cover sheet of your package, there is a parking calculation, and based on this project, we are required to provide 6 parking. So we're providing 7. And for condominiums, I think we're just required to provide 3 cover parking, but because the symmetry of the project, we have decided to provide 6 cover parkings. The reason we left the west side parking spot on cover, if you look at your grading map or grading plan, we have to provide on the ground drainage because the limitation of the area we have in our lot. So that will be where the manhole is for the drain, for the truck to take all the water out. So it will not be a good idea to cover it when a big truck has to go out and access that manhole. The question about the trash enclosure, I mean, I don't know if the city or the waste management company has a standard for the gates, but it's up to the designer or the owner to see if we can provide other options.
And do you have anything else that you would like to add about the project?
Jeffrey, would you like to add something else to the project?
No, I don't think. I'm Jeff Juraski, the architectural designer of the project. Zaida and I are partnering up on this. And thank you, Glenn, for your presentation. No, I think the exhibits are pretty self-explanatory. And I think this particular area in Northern Palm Springs is kind of craving a very interesting, more creative architectural statement when it comes to some of the residential stock that's up there. So we're kind of excited.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? Seeing none, what's before us right now is questions of the applicant. Do people have questions of the applicant? Commissioner Lane.
Thank you. I noticed that your choice of hardscape colors in the packet that was produced for us, you're using a very dark kind of charcoal gray on a lot of your hardscape, which seems, because there's not much landscaping there, seems as though it would be really create a heat island for you. And I'm wondering if you think you could come up with a lighter color that would have greater reflectivity and would not heat up the area as much, and if that would work with your design.
We selected the darker tones, number one, to be a little different, and number two, because the owner liked the color palette of the black, white, and orange direction. Being that the buildings are as close as they are, I felt that the amount of exposure to overhead sun and that sort of thing was fairly minimal, so I wasn't too concerned about it. And then with this in the back, since it's south exposure, that would be only during the winter months, and that would seem to be a little more palatable back there. I understand your concern, and I would normally I would agree with you. And we can change if you feel strongly about it, but I thought just the aesthetics warranted okay.
Okay. My other question is, I noticed that you've specifically called out Washingtonia robustas for your palms, and they start at a height that would just be beautiful with the development when it's built, but within a couple of years they would be out of scale. I'm wondering if you would be open to a suggestion of the California fan palms instead, the Washingtonia proliferas.
We would be okay with that, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant? Seeing none, I have one, and it's regarding your CCNRs. Have you thought in regards to this development, how you're going to frame your CCNRs in terms of what kind of rentals are allowed?
We haven't addressed that at all, frankly, at this point in time. It's been all architecture at this point in time.
One of the reasons to ask you that is it's pretty much set at the time you set the CCNRs as to whether or not you allow short-term rentals, or you require 1 month, 3 months, 1 year. And you might want to think that through in terms of who's going to be purchasing the property.
Sure. Well, when the owner gets to start to formulate those CCNRs, I'm sure that is going to be a concern. So thank you for bringing that point forward.
I think, are there any other questions of the applicant? Seeing none, the public hearing is closed. Thank you. This matter is before us. I've heard a couple of items. Generally, I'm guessing there is general approval on this project. Does anybody want to speak generally about it, or shall we speak specifically? Seeing no, Commissioner Maruzzi.
Well, generally, I think it's a really good project, and I like its design, and I think it'll look great in that part of town. It'll be curious to see if any of those apartments that we saw in the study session ever get built around it, but if it's an island for a while, it'll be a very attractive one. So, yeah, I mean, the question that Commissioner Lane brought up about the colors, you know, I kind of really like these colors. Should we just leave that to the Architectural Review Commission for them to investigate more thoroughly? I wouldn't feel comfortable making a directive now that the colors are too dark. That's my comment.
Is there anybody else who wants to speak? Because I would share some of her concerns about creating a heat sink and ask the Architectural Review Committee to look at that item. The other item that I wanted to speak to is the trash gates. I think this is a 3-unit condominium. It's going to be hard to have management. The people there are the people who are going to be pulling in and out the trash barrels. And I don't think it should be quite that close to the sidewalk. I think there has to be space in front of the sidewalk. So, yes, Commissioner Miller?
Yeah, to that comment, there could be an alternative design for the gate where it was essentially a small roll-up gate. If they design the vertical supports for a roll-up, they could actually make that work, and there would not be any intrusion onto the public sidewalk in that case. So that may be something that the commission wants to throw in as a condition for at least them to explore that. Or alternatively, to move it back such that the gates don't open over the sidewalk.
So with the items that have been discussed, we have a motion.
Excuse me, I have one more issue that I wanted to hear what the other commissioners thought. I'm a little bit concerned about making a finding number 2 on the CUP. And that is we're required to find that the project is in harmony with various elements and objectives of the general plan. In particular, it talks about, or the finding talks about how the design is sympathetic with the desert surroundings. And I find that a little bit at odds with the water in the front, which probably in reality, they don't use a whole lot of water, but they certainly make a statement that is not consistent with being in a desert. I'm just wondering what other commissioners might have thought about that. I think they're very attractive. But
I don't know if anybody else is experiencing your audio going in and out. So I had a hard time listening to your whole comment.
I can try again. I think somebody might not be muted. So if anybody is not muted and they're not speaking, that would help. My concern, Chair, was that the 2 water features in the front of the project are at odds with the finding that the design is sympathetic with the desert surroundings. I find that a little bit inconsistent, despite the fact that in all likelihood, the water is recirculated. I'm not sure, but there's not a great water use. However, I do find it relatively incompatible with the desert surroundings. And I wondered what others thought.
I'd like to hear what the applicant has to say about that. Their thinking.
Oh, thank you, Pete. The water features are there as aesthetic elements there to just add some romance and some audible entry experience for you as well. It's a concrete block. It's sealed. The water will just gently step down that area. It is recirculating, excuse me. So there is no, exorbitant water use or anything like that. I'm not necessarily following your logic when it comes to the compatibility of the desert necessarily. There's plenty of water, like Tahquitz Falls and things like that. So there's a water presence in our desert for sure. So it's just a romantic type of thing rather than to have an unexplored architectural corner as you enter the unit. I thought it was a pretty easy, relatively inexpensive way to create some drama.
Far be it for me to want to kill the romance. I will just say that typically in the desert, water is not found for decorative purposes. In a desert where it is used to sustain life. But I get your objective.
Thank you.
I actually have concerns because we, as a city, when we have drought, we close down our public fountains. And it's something I'm always sad to see happen. but it does happen. And we're entering into what is probably a more serious drought at this point in time, along with the rest of the West. So let me try and see if I can craft something, a motion to approve, asking the Architectural Advisory Committee to look at the trash enclosures and reconceive them in a way that the trash bins will never be put in the public sidewalk. The second was that the applicant has agreed they would use California fan palms instead of the Washington Robustas. The third is to, and I don't know how people feel about the fountains. To ask for them to look at a different design element other than fountains in the front entry. Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, regarding the fountains, I think they're small enough. I think they would be a great design feature. We're having small spa pools with each of these. Every single family home that gets built now has a pool. I don't think we need to harp on two small 30 or 40 gallon water features that are recirculating water. So I have no problem with the fountains myself.
And it seems like Commissioner Marucci.
And I agree with Commissioner Miller.
Commissioner Irvin, do you have a view on the fountains?
I'm fine either way. It doesn't seem like it's that much of a difference, and it kind of would be just raking over the plan. I mean, I'm fine with it. However you guys decide, I'm fine with it.
I'm not going to hold on to the fountains. They are small. So the major issue I think we've seen were the trees and the trash enclosures. But the trash enclosures, to not accept them the way they are, but have them reworked so that bins never will be on the public sidewalk. Is that acceptable to people here? Does anybody want to make that motion or second it?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Can you call the roll, please?
Yes, Commissioner Leon,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin,
Yes.
Commissioner Marucci,
Yes.
Chair Womack.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Good luck to you on this. We hope to see it built soon.
Thank you, planning commissioners. Very much appreciated.
Okay, moving right along to the next item on our very long agenda tonight. Item 2B is the City of Palm Springs request for amendments to the Palm Springs zoning code chapter 92.00 related to zoning regulations for childcare uses. Staff report, please.
Can you see the screen? And we are too far ahead.
You're still split. You might want to have only one slide showing.
How is that?
Much better.
Great. Good evening, commissioners. This next item proposes amendments to the zoning code that would eliminate barriers to the creation of childcare and daycare uses by reducing or eliminating the requirements for planning approvals for those uses, depending on their location. This item stems out of City Council direction for staff to look at the regulations as currently written and evaluate methods for reducing barriers to the establishment of childcare businesses throughout the city. As part of that evaluation, we did consider two different options for removing those barriers. The first was to consider waiving application fees for these uses, which can be upwards of $10,000 in some cases. And the other was to reduce or eliminate the entitlement process itself. And I'm going to speak about these in more detail in just a second. So before we get into those details, I first just want to remind us all of how the zoning code defines and regulates these uses today. So we have essentially three categories of childcare uses that are shown here. We first have the daycare uses, which are defined as small and large. So a small daycare is one that provides service for 8 or fewer children within a residence. So this is sort of a private daycare operation in somebody's home. And the second is a large daycare, which is above the 8 child threshold of 9 to 14 children, again, in a private residence. And these definitions mirror the state regulation and licensing process, which also defines small and large daycare operations and have specific requirements for each, including how many infants, for example, you can have in an operation like this, and there's different licensing requirements. The third category in the code is the child care center. And so there are no limit on the number of children in that category other than the capacity that is determined by the state. And typically that capacity is determined by, a host of things, but primarily about the number of staff that are on site. So you can only have so many children per staff, for example. And those uses are typically more standalone, and they're across a variety of zones, but we're not talking the sort of daycare uses that are in a private residence there. Today, daycare uses are only permitted in residential zones by right, or in some limited instances by land use permit that is processed by the department. Child care centers, on the other hand, are permitted by conditional use permit in residential zones or by land use permit in commercial zones. So going back to the two options that we considered as part of our evaluation, on the first being the application fee waiver, we felt that offering a waiver of associated application fees presented challenges with the implementation and feasibility, as it would require annual funding from the city's general fund to cover staff time associated with the ongoing review of these applications, and that funding has not been allocated through the budget process. It also did not address certain barriers to childcare uses, including the time required to obtain the approvals from the department or the commission, depending what action they were seeking. Of course, on the other hand, a benefit is that it does still provide department or planning commission review of these applications. However, we felt that benefit did not outweigh the drawbacks, and it did not fully respond to the direction provided by the City Council, which was to look at time and cost barriers to these uses. It's also worth noting that all of these facilities, as I've kind of mentioned, are subject to review and licensing by the state, which includes a site inspection both before opening when you're planning one of these facilities, as well as ongoing periodic inspections while they are operating, as well as a rigorous background check and training to ensure compliance with state requirements. So in light of that, we are instead recommending the second option, which is, essentially to kick each of the required approvals down one level. And I'll get into that in a bit more in 1 second. But essentially, where a conditional use permit is required today, a land use permit would be required as a result of the amendment. Where a land use permit is required today, it would become permitted by right. This has the double effect of reducing both fees and time required to establish a childcare use, eliminating barriers to their establishment. So here's where we've kind of summarized what that looks like. So for the residential zones, you can see a childcare center today, it requires a conditional use permit. We are suggesting that it would go down to a land use permit level. A couple of things to note here. First, in the mobile home park residential zone at the far right of this column, today it's only permitted as by right there if it's ancillary to sort of a clubhouse or common sort of recreational center that exists in the mobile home park for the use of those residents. So we're not changing that. That would remain the same today. So you can't have a child care center operating in that zone that is operating more broadly for children that live outside of that development. The other thing to note here is that in the R1 zone and the RGA zone, you can only have those uses if you are on a major or secondary thoroughfare. We're not changing that. All we're doing is changing the conditional use permit requirement down to a land use permit that would be processed at the staff level, but that requirement that you be on a major or secondary thoroughfare would remain. In terms of daycares, small daycares are largely permitted by right in the residential zones anyway, so there's no change there, and just two small changes to large daycares. It's actually just one change. There's an error under the RGA, but under the R1 zone today, it requires a land use permit, and it would, as a result of this amendment, become permitted by right. Getting into commercial and industrial designations or non-residential designations, daycares are not permitted in those designations, again, because they primarily operate in private homes and residences. But childcare centers today in all of the zones listed here do require a land use permit that is processed by staff. We are proposing as part of this amendment that they would become permitted by right. Again, we believe these changes respond to the City Council's request that we eliminate barriers that today may limit or prevent the establishment of these uses. And should the Commission recommend approval, this ordinance will be forwarded to the City Council for their consideration. And that does conclude my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. If you take the slides down, that would be great.
Yes.
Questions for staff?
Go.
Commissioner Ervin.
Yeah, just a quick question. With the LUP and the CUP, what is the difference in pricing? I know I've seen it on there. I just can't remember.
Yeah, so actually, I'm going to just put the screen back up for 1 second because I did include a slide on this. Can you see that again?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so right here. So a land use permit is typically just around $1,600, whereas a conditional use permit is just about $7,000. There's also a pre-application fee that we charge for people to come in and sort of begin the process with us. Typically, we don't require that pre-application fee, which is just over $1,500 for a land use permit, but it is required for the conditional use permit. And the conditional use permit also requires public notification, and those fees vary sort of depending on how we process it. So that's why the conditional use permit is really the one that gets you up to that $10,000 level, whereas the land use permit is about $1,600. You're not really subject to the other fees on this slide.
So the CUP is kind of really what we're helping the applicants out with.
I would overwhelmingly that's the one that's the biggest cost and time burden. Yes.
Okay, and then time wise, how much of a difference is it in beginning? I mean, the process.
Yeah, it's really dependent. I would say obviously a land use permit can be processed much faster because it doesn't require coming to the commission. It doesn't require the noticing or the hearing. So, you know, those are probably looking at a few weeks to a couple of months, whereas the conditional use permit is certainly a couple of month long process.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, you're muted.
Thank you for answering the questions, asking and answering the questions on the money. So for all of the small and large daycares, they will not have a charge. They won't.
That's right.
So we're reducing that. And for a daycare center, we're reducing their cost from $10,000 to around around $1,600 or $8,400 reduction in
That's
cost
correct.
and savings of time. One question I had, which is on the R1 zones where it needs to be in a on a major thoroughfare and are the RGA zones, you would permit it in an R1 zone if it say was on Vistachino. That's correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. But the large and small daycares would always be permitted in those zones.
That's right.
This is long overdue. I think it's great. And it's really something I think we should push forward. Are there any other comments from the commission? Commissioner Miller?
Yeah, quick question for Director Hedwin. Does the city have any regulations for childcare regarding play area requirements, outdoor play area, and/or hours of operation? I'm just curious, or do we just defer to the state allowances for those items?
As I understand it, we do just defer to the state regulations, which speak to that. And I'm sorry that I don't know the details around that. There is, if you were coming in for a new building that is proposing a child care center, or, even if you're retrofitting an existing building, you would still be subject to the permitting process through the buildings department. So there may still be electrical permits, for example. There's other safety elements, obviously to ensure the children aren't running out into the traffic, or if there's a pool associated in some of these buildings, making sure that the pool is enclosed. So all of those regular sort of safety and building elements would still exist through the building code and be permitted through the building department. We just wouldn't necessarily be as involved in the entitlement process.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, you're muted.
I was trying to be courteous to make sure other people could be heard. Sorry about that. Seeing no other questions, I would take a motion for approval.
I'd be happy to move approval. I think this is beneficial to the community.
And
Madam Chair.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Can you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Leon,
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin,
Yes.
Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Maruzi,
Yes.
and Chair Warmick.
Madam Chair, you're muted.
Okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. Okay, moving right along to Planning Commission reports, requests, and comments.
Actually, sorry, Madam Chair, you were muted during your vote. So if you could just state it for the record.
Yes.
I assume.
Motion carries.
Okay, Planning Commission reports, requests, and comments. Seeing none, the planning. Oh, Commissioner Maruzi.
Just
Sorry.
a question. Has there been any follow-up or what has happened with the DREAM project and the concerns that were raised and how it, I assume it went before council, or what's the
No, sorry, Madam Chair, should I answer the question?
Excuse.
It is tentatively scheduled to go before the City Council on November 28th, of course, subject to their scheduling. I know they have some busy agendas. The applicant was actually asked for more time to work through some of the comments from the commission meeting and some of the direction received at that meeting, and to work with their architect to make sure that they had appropriate exhibits, because I know that was a big part of the conversation. So we're anticipating end of November to go before the City Council.
Okay, thank you very much.
Planning Director's report.
Not much. I did want to touch on, there was an article in the LA Times that a number of you, or that I know drew a lot of interest in the community, and that some of us had conversations on about, a number of jurisdictions throughout the state who are no longer in compliance with the requirement to update the housing element, and what that means for cities like Santa Monica, where there is just a very tremendous development proposal of something around 4,000 units working through the system. And there is something called builder's relief, I believe it's called, state law, which does say that where a jurisdiction is out of compliance with the housing element requirement, essentially developers can come in and propose to build as long as there's a certain percentage of affordability as part of those developments. I did just want to touch on the fact that while Palm Springs was included in that list in the LA Times article, and while technically I believe we just kind of crossed into non-compliance in terms of our timing from our prior update, we are very much working with HCD, obviously, to update the housing element and the rest of the limited general plan update. We anticipate having that completed in the spring, and we are actively working with HCD to resolve that. We're not aware of anyone pursuing development through that state legislation. And, our sense is that the economics are a little bit different here, and certainly the politics are a little bit different here. I think it would be challenging for someone to try and do that here, but I did just want to touch on it with you all since it was in the media to say that we are aware of the article, and at this point, we're not aware of anyone pursuing those channels, but we believe the gap between being in non-compliance and getting our housing element updated will be very narrow.
Question for you on that. When I talked with Flynn Fagg, he indicated that you're in active discussions on one point and that you're very close. Has HCD indicated that you would not be subject to that builder's remedy?
They have not said that expressly. I think that we're hoping to have that one point resolved very quickly. We are just awaiting additional information from them that will allow us to sort of finalize certain elements of the land use plan to make sure that we are in compliance with state law. And we are just waiting for information from them actually in order to be able to finalize.
Quite honestly, I'm completely shocked that Santa Monica is the one that they use as the poster child for this. If any community is, involved and politically this kind of thing wouldn't be appropriate, it's Santa Monica. And yet here they are. And Kathy, you were involved with them for a long time. I don't understand how they got in this situation. But
historically out of compliance on their housing element. That is nothing new. They had large battles with HCD before Costa-Hawkins, which limited rent, allowed people to go out of rent control, was approved. It's a jurisdiction that charitably sometimes does not believe it's subject to the same rules everybody else is. So I wasn't shocked at all that it had happened to them, and it has such a desirable housing market, and people would, everybody on the west side wanted to live there. And so there's any units they put up would sell or rent. And so it's, I can see developers having wanted to get in there for years and seeing this as an opening.
they've gotten their comeuppance, that Santa Monica.
Mm-hmm. They were probably one of the best cities in terms of developing affordable housing. They had a huge percentage of their stock. The real difficulty is that the land is entirely built out. So that figuring out how to meet RHNA numbers was probably incredibly challenging. Can you tell us about the items that went through City Council that people here have worked on? Chris?
Oh, yes. So we, the SB9 amendments that you all recommended approval on a couple of weeks ago were presented to the City Council and accepted. So that is, I believe, on for second reading and adoption tomorrow night. And Casa Verona was also heard at the recent council meeting. There were some interesting conversations in making sure in the R1E zone that we don't end up with sort of a wall of garages, and visually and aesthetically that it's not just kind of all garages because of the narrow lots. And so I think we were able to talk through that with the City Council in terms of some of the other accommodations that zone did make in terms of allowing the garage to be set back further from the principal residence and different design elements that the ARC will certainly consider. But it was also looked at and decided on favorably by the City Council.
Any questions? Seeing none, I'm going to adjourn the Planning Commission until 5:30 Wednesday, November 9th. Have a nice couple of weeks and see you all then.